People will talk. Welcome back to the latest episode of the wait a second. The People Will Talk podcast. Forgetful me. We're currently on Calle Avenida, Dublin, which is very appropriate because we were somewhere last night. Mary, who is of course here in the studio with me as well. Where were we?
In the mobile studio. We were in our event, An Evening with Joyce.
The evening was so successful that we've been dragged in to do an event about Yeats at some point as well.
Dragged in.
Which is it's pretty amazing because the reason we did this Joyce event is because we did our book launch at this venue, and that was so successful. Before we even left the venue, it was like, do you want to do a thing about James Joyce? And now this was so successful, like we had to do something about Yeats, which I can only imagine once we do Yeats and that's so successful, it's like, do you want to do something about Beckett? It's like, okay, this will never end, but we'll do it. So first of all, I think it was a tremendous success last night, and we can only thank the people who came to see us, who maybe will be listening to this podcast, maybe not. What were your impressions of the event before we start talking about it?
The people that came, and also the people that read for us and played music, so everybody that collaborated with us.
That is very good. So I did thank them on the night, so it's not as if I'm forgetting them.
I know, but we might as well.
Speaking of the music, Pádraig O'Connor, an Irishman, Melanie Lawrence, my friend from England, and we had, I have one, and we had Dennis Rafter, Dermot and Niall also reading, and they did a fantastic job with that as well. And of course, Crazy Mary, not this one, another one, whose bookshop is in the heart of Madrid and is a beautiful space if you ever find yourself in the Spanish capital. So the format of the night was a celebration of Joyce, a Bloomsday event, if you will, in October, where we had ourselves kind of giving the context of 3 different extracts from Dubliners, Portrait of an Artist as a Young Man, and Ulysses, of course, and then the people are reading those extracts from those 3 different books, and the songs interspersed throughout this as well. And at the end we plugged our blog podcast and everything.
You make it sound like so mechanic. Well, we just told them where they could find more information and read more about it, because we have articles there basically giving the context that we gave yesterday, and maybe a little bit more, and a little bit more, because it's about Joyce and dancing, which we didn't get a chance to talk so much about yesterday, and other interesting things.
Very much so. Just to give you guys a background, and I do advise anybody who was actually at the event, you can turn off now, because we will be giving a kind of synopsis of what we're talking about. So for example, Bloomsday itself, it's interesting. The first one in France was a day celebrating the translation of Ulysses in the first French version of the book, and it was gate-crashed. Anybody who's at the event will know I'm kind of like saying this word for word almost.
I was gonna say like
but Samuel Beckett did gate-crash it, roaring drunk, and the first one was in Dublin 50 years after the event. The French one was 25 years after the event. The Dublin was 50 years after the events, and again the same old story. Patrick Kavanagh, Flann O'Brien completely scuttered. But it kind of shows, it had inauspicious beginnings, and now, by way of comparison, 2004, to choose a random date from the modern era, I think 10,000 people were in Dublin celebrating Bloomsday, and it is truly an international event, because we were talking to a Hungarian girl yesterday, and Joyce is so well known there as well, and there are Bloomsday events there also. and there's people from Chile and Portugal at the event last night as well. So it just kind of shows how much reach James Joyce has as well. So obviously we studied this book in preparation of the events. Dennis mentioned something that was quite interesting for me, which is about, because food plays such a huge part in the book, which you were describing so wonderfully last night as well, that the famine is ever present as well. I mean, one of the reasons why food is so important is because we still have this memory of the famine as well. So for me, that was something that was kind of new for us to learn. And just from this experience, we think of Joyce as this great writer, which he is, but we kind of cover so many different aspects of his character. For you, what was maybe the most interesting thing that we spoke about last night, or maybe that you heard from one of the speakers, essentially about his relationship with sports or dancing or food or whatever it could be?
Well, I really enjoy talking about him being abroad, because obviously you can relate more to when you've been away, when you've been living abroad, and how the different takes that people go for, finding other people from your country or avoiding them. And I thought that line about, how if he could write about Dublin, he could write about any city in the world. And also this line of, in the particular is contained the universal. I really like that. I mean, that's kind of, there's so much into it, so much that you could sort of discuss about that, whether you agree or not, that it's quite enlightening, I think.
Also, you got some great praise for your vocabulary last night. Inveterate vegan, burly. Can you fill us in on this a little bit?
Yeah, for your own entertainment. Yes, and I wrote all the clever words, and I just filled in with whatever I could. That's the summary.
Well, specifically though, to Irish people are like, wow, you're Spanish, but you speak English so well, which you do. But burly, yeah. I mean, without my script, you're nothing.
Well, just let the people judge for themselves, because you keep doing this now. Hopefully you would have earned yourself a lot of enemies after all this.
From
attacks.
who? The nation of Spain?
No, from your own people that were there and were trying to be nice and embracing.
And you're also wearing a period dress, which maybe that could be the cover photo of the podcast. What do you think?
No.
But it was much commented upon. Really set the mood as well. This kind of transported back into the past. But you found this. For me, because I'm a man, all I do is put on a straw hat, and I'm more or less in character as James Joyce, which was yours as well. But where did you actually get your dress? It's a surprising origin story for this.
Well, I'm not gonna give everything away, am I? So I'll just say that the gloves and shawl I borrowed of my mom. So thank you, Mom. And the dress I just, outsourced from somewhere else.
A Chinese store. Which I think is incredible, because if you see this dress, it is something that you would see in a movie or a period drama, and you wouldn't think a Chinese store would have it.
Actually, in fairness, I got it online, but it did come from China.
Okay.
So, I think you could effectively say it was a Chinese shop, because, it was really complicated working out what size I should get, for starters.
Well, thank you, China, for saving our events in a fashion style anyway. But it's one thing as well. On the day of the events, there was a podcast, coincidentally enough, because you mentioned Young as well. Well, you mentioned Young in the script that I wrote, but Young talks about you can, when you think about something, you can actually bring it closer to you. And bizarrely enough, we're doing this event by James Joyce, and there's a podcast about modern Dublin, and a lot of things been taken down from James Joyce as well. So we're going from a moment of levity, I guess, to kind of crash landing in this as well. But a lot of historic places are being torn down over Dublin, and hotels are being put there for tourists. But why would tourists come if you're taking down those James Joyce places and those bars as well? So the long and short of it is we're not very good in Ireland of looking after our historic things. Even when James Joyce was alive, he was forgotten by the Irish state. It took a long time to really appreciate him, and now we're kind of doing the same thing again, where we're burying our past under student accommodation and fancy hotels. So is it the same in Spain, or are you better at protecting
that's a tricky one.
Yeah,
it depends on the period. That's the key. Some things I think we're appreciative of, and I would say as a positive, we're pretty good at merging. For example, with buildings, we're not scared about creating, merging like new ones with historical ones, like we saw when we talked about the ethnography museum.
Well, let me just say, there is if you go to Toledo, and there's an escalator in the city walls, essentially.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's positive, because at the end of the day, people need to move around. There's a lot of elderly people, like, for example, I've been there with my parents, and it was so much easier. It was made, they were able to visit because there were those escalators. So I think those are things that are positive. Then on the other hand, you have a lot of remains from medieval times or Islamic times in Madrid, which are completely neglected. I mean, we have so many bits of the medieval wall, and a lot of people don't even know that they're there. And yeah, even now when they are doing some road works, and they found some 16th century horse stables, and they've pretty much vanished. They're not there anymore. So things like that, it just depends on the period, and obviously who's around to decide. But
okay, fair enough. Well, another thing as well that we did cover is Dublin as this living organic thing, which of course every city is. It's full of people, it's constantly changing. But one thing that Joyce did cover is gossip, and lots of people gossiping. And Brendan Kennelly, a poet who I quite like, and who sadly passed away recently as well, we did quote him or paraphrase him in the events, because he was talking about how today Dublin is this place where crazy things happen, and people talk about it because people talk and gossip in small areas, and Dublin is still a small city that you can walk across. There's a rural hinterland, and there's a sense of parochialism like there is in most parts of the country. So in the eyes of these two great writers, Brendan Kennelly and James Joyce, it is about these little stories and people gossiping, and this kind of inertia of the small locale, for example. I know Madrid is famous for being this open city. Nobody in Madrid is from Madrid, and everybody kind of gravitates towards it historically and in the modern day as well. But are you aware how writers treat Madrid, or even in your own kind of idea, how is Madrid a city of gossipers as well, or what is Madrid? If Dublin is full of gossip, what is Madrid full of?
Well, you have read Baroja yourself.
In that case, misery.
You read El Árbol de la Vida, didn't you? So there is quite a bit. I mean, I think there are a lot of similarities really in the way that it's kind of we call it costumbrista. It's like a novel that speaks about what the customs, what the characters, the typical characters are of this is quite a kind of turn of century thing, I would say, beginning of the 20th century. So it's interesting to see how that genre kind of works in different countries in a similar way. So I would say probably there you'll find a lot of similarities with obviously talking about, I mean, you only have to imagine these houses that they all face what they call the corralas, that they're kind of courtyard houses where you have a lot of flats that all face this kind of central courtyard, and of course people go out to hang their clothes, and it's a moment that is useful for to know what's going on and to check on other neighbors and so on. So I'm sure that exists in all cultures.
You mentioned Pio Baroja as well. I think it's an interesting comparison as well, because we did also talk yesterday about the internationalism of Bloomsday and Joyce himself. So this is an event, of course, which is celebrated all over the world, and Joyce wrote about Ireland but abroad. The character of Leopold Bloom is a Hungarian, and we also spoke about how Molly Malone, this great Irish figure, is something that was invented in the United States of America as well. And I do remember in Pio Baroja, he makes fun of Americans at the turn of the century who come to Spain and speak Spanish with their Yankee accents, basically. And that's something that you could still probably say today as well. But I mean, you know, for me, the internationalism of Joyce novels is something that is really a cornerstone or a huge part of it. But I guess though there must be Spanish writers that write about Madrid but are touched by international things as well, because even back at the turn of the century, the world was a relatively small place.
Well, somebody always tells me off for saying that globalization is a modern phenomenon, so
that's me.
Yes, that is you. And that is my way of getting out of a question that I don't know the answer to.
That's fair enough. I can always go back to my script from last night anyway. Pilgrimage and ritual. No. So yeah, I mean, we had this. It was fabulous, really, because we met some interesting people who have been here for a long time, who have their own Irish-Spanish connections, and a couple of people who are organising kind of separate Joyce events as well this year, which will be interesting and fantastic to see as well. Now, as I mentioned, we'll be turning to Yeats more than likely for the next time around. So we've written a novel about Seamus Mazzini. We've done an event about James Joyce. We're slowly knocking everybody off the list. But at this moment in time, are you have you imagined what this next event is going to be like?
I haven't yet. I mean, we'll most likely do it in collaboration with a Yates Society here, and so it'll be nice to talk to them and see what they envisage. I think they've done something before, but of course we always have our own wacky ideas. So yeah, let's see how it works. I mean, it's very exciting. I don't know if we'll have time to fit it in before St. Patrick's, because really, March is pretty much around the corner. But
talking what's around the corner, it's October. Christmas is around the corner. Halloween's around the corner. Valentine's Day is around the corner.
Well, it is. Well, come on, Valentine's Day then.
I'll tell you what's around the corner. 2024.
Well, no, but honestly, time goes so fast. I mean, literally, when we talked about doing this event, that was in June or July, the beginning of July, when we had a presentation. And then, I don't know for you, but for me, it's flown, really. And it was 4 months, so...
I was saying about this. In the last 4 months, we've done the book launch, the book fair, and this Joyce event. We took August off, obviously.
That is true.
It's a summer.
Is very true, yeah.
So, in November, we'll probably be doing... Well, we'll find out.
I was gonna say, if we're doing something, we don't know yet, but more podcasts.
So it was a fantastic experience. Really nice again to collaborate with Crazy Mary Leveria, and all we can say really is thank you to everybody who turned up and all the people who participated as well. And so you can find us on Instagram at L_ARPA_ on Twitter, Facebook, and YouTube. Somebody developed the ability to make thumbnails from the video, so if you go to our YouTube channel, you'll see something.
Somebody
looks pretty nice. And this is it for another episode of the People Will Talk podcast. This is me saying good luck.
And me saying bye.